Welcome to The Explainer. Okay, so today we're diving into a piece of short dialogue from our source text that honestly, on the surface, just seems like a simple, funny interaction. But underneath, we are looking at a fascinating, almost absurd study of perspective, power dynamics, and self-actualization. We're going to completely deconstruct the aspirations of Roachy the cockroach and see exactly what happens when the mundane absolutely collides with the absurd. Get ready, because you're probably going to look at the insect kingdom and maybe even how we perceive our own status a little differently by the time we're done here. Now, before we even meet our main character, let's just ground ourselves with a question we've literally all faced at one time or another. What is the ultimate aspiration? Think back to when you were young. We were all asked about our career goals and our childhood ambitions. Like, do you want to be an astronaut, a doctor, an artist? It's a completely normal, universally understood rite of passage. It establishes this baseline of human normalcy, right? A shared cultural script that we all instantly recognize. And it's exactly this perfectly normal, completely predictable framework that our source material uses to set a brilliant trap for the reader.
Section 1. A classroom introduction. The protagonist enters.
So, the scene opens in the most incredibly everyday, mundane environment imaginable, a school classroom. The primary authority figure in the room, the teacher, says, "Welcome to class. What's your name?" It's a standard, super polite, welcoming prompt. It immediately signals order, education, social norms. The teacher is doing exactly what a teacher is supposed to do, integrating a new student into the structured environment of a school. There is absolutely zero hint yet of the sheer chaos that's about to unfold.
And then we get the response. "Roachy, ma'am." This is exactly where the source material introduces our incredible juxtaposition, because our newest student is in fact a cockroach. But notice his demeanor here. He doesn't skitter in. He doesn't go hide in the shadows by the baseboards. He speaks, and he speaks with incredible respect. He actually uses the formal title ma'am. That specific word is absolutely crucial because it establishes Roachy not as some mindless pest, but as an articulate, highly polite participant in this social contract. He is playing by the rules of the classroom perfectly, which makes his physical reality as an insect wonderfully, hilariously jarring.
Moving right along to Section 2. The grand aspiration. Charting a course.
So the teacher, kind of just accepting this highly polite insect into the fold, proceeds with that standard script we talked about earlier. She asks, "What do you want to be when you grow up?" It seems like a totally innocent question, but in the context of this text, it's the pivotal moment. The teacher is totally assuming that Roachy's life trajectory maps onto standard, predictable human expectations. The question itself is the ultimate setup for a profound revelation. A human. Wow! Just take a second to really absorb the sheer dramatic weight of that two-word declaration. Roachy doesn't want an occupation. He wants a completely different state of being. He literally wants to transcend his species entirely. It's this incredibly shocking aspiration that immediately shatters that polite normalcy the teacher was trying so hard to maintain. Why on earth would an insect want to be a human? This sets up a massive hook in the text, building intense anticipation for the reasoning behind his completely impossible choice.
Naturally, the teacher's response is the only logical one available to her. Why? And honestly, in this moment, the teacher acts as the perfect proxy for us, the audience. We are just as confused. We desperately need to know the logic behind this wild ambition. The text brilliantly just pauses right here, holding us in suspense, waiting to see how Roachy could possibly justify his desire to cross the biological divide. Which brings us to Section 3, Misinterpreting Human Fear, Flawed but Consistent Logic. And here is the magnificent reveal. Roachy says, "Because every time humans see me, they start screaming and running away." This is where the entire dynamic just completely flips on its head. See, Roachy observes the exact same physical reality we do, humans screaming and fleeing, but he interprets these actions entirely differently. He doesn't see human disgust, he doesn't see a pest control issue. Looking through his own lens, he interprets this massive, dramatic reaction as undeniable evidence of his own overwhelming presence. He equates their frantic fleeing with sheer terror of his immense power. To him, humans are clearly incredibly important, yet they flee from him. Therefore, logically, attaining human status must be the ultimate goal.
Let's actually break down the specific data points he's working with here. The text points to 3 distinct, chaotic physical actions taken by humans in his presence. Number 1, screaming. Number 2, running away. And number 3, which we'll see confirmed shortly in the text, jumping on a chair. If you just strip away your own human bias for a second and look at the raw data, you can actually start to see his point. These are signs of total submission and panic. Our tiny protagonist creates a massive, undeniable disruption wherever he goes. He literally commands the room.
So the crucial point we need to take away is this fundamental disconnect. On one hand, we have the teacher's reality, humans are terrified out of revulsion. But on the other, we have Roachy's reality, I am incredibly powerful. This juxtaposition is the core comedic and philosophical misunderstanding of the whole source text. It really forces us to ask, does intent actually matter if the result is exactly the same? Roachy clears a room just as effectively as a lion or a bear would. The reality of the power dynamic is entirely subjective and totally depends on whose perspective you're looking through. All right, on to our final part, Section 4, the principal's validation, physical proof. Now the teacher, who is desperately trying to maintain the established interspecies social hierarchy here, attempts to correct him. That's not how it works, she says. She's trying to impose the human reality back onto the situation. She knows full well that screaming at a bug isn't a sign of respect or subservience, it's just an instinctive, reflexive reaction. But the real tragedy for the teacher here is that her words are merely theoretical, and she is about to be completely, utterly defeated by empirical evidence. And this right here brilliantly illustrates a real-time test of Roachy's hypothesis. Just look at how perfectly these events cascade. Step 1. Roachy states his case regarding his power. Step 2. The teacher firmly denies how it works. But then, almost on cue, Step 3 instantly occurs. The principal, literally the highest authority figure in the entire school, suddenly jumps on a chair. Right in the middle of her denial, the universe provides undeniable, physical proof of Roachy's claim. The cause and effect in the room instantly shifts the balance of power squarely in favor of the cockroach. Which sets up the ultimate mic drop moment from our source text. Roachy simply looks at the teacher and asks, "Really? Then why did the principal just jump on a chair?" I mean, it is an absolutely flawless rebuttal. Roachy doesn't need to argue theory with the teacher anymore. He just points to the real-time physical evidence happening right in front of their faces. The highest-ranking human in the building has literally elevated himself just to escape the raw power of the cockroach. It completely and utterly validates Roachy's perspective within the reality of the scene. As we wrap up this explainer, I really want you to leave with this final, provocative thought. If the principal jumps on a chair at the mere sight of a tiny insect, who really rules the school? It totally forces us to reconsider everything we know about perceived authority versus actual impact. Authority might come with a fancy title, a big office, and a curriculum, but true power can clear a room without saying a single word. Thank you so much for joining me for this deep dive into the source material. Keep questioning those everyday power dynamics, keep seeking clear understanding, and I will absolutely see you in the next explainer.